Hi, everyone. We're really excited to be here. My name is Megan Arnett. I am a team lead recruiter over at S&P Global. I'm going to be moderating today's event for everybody. So first, before we get through the questions, if all the panelists want to kind of give a quick introduction to themselves, whoever would like to go first, feel free.
You should have called on one of us so that we
Just made one of you go for it.
Yeah,
Well, Robin, since you
I'll
spoke
just go
first,
on.
it's
I'm
yours.
probably the oldest, so I'll jump in. So I'm Robin Prunty. I'm the Chief Analytical Officer in our U.S. Public Finance Department. I'm also an alum of Rockefeller Graduate School of Public Affairs, and really happy to be here today.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kimberly Lyons. I am a product manager at Moody's Investor Service and formerly a senior analyst in our public finance team. I'm also an alum of Rockefeller.
Hi, I'm Lee Nader. I'm with Assured Guarantee, the bond insurer. I'm the head of healthcare and higher education underwriting.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, then without further ado, we'll get started with questions. So, essentially whoever, I guess we can call on people if you'd like, but whoever wants to kind of go first answer. First question is to please tell us about your experience as a student at Rockefeller College and how it prepared you to enter the world of public finance.
I think that's for Robin and myself, right?
Yeah.
As alums, but Lee can share her experience. I always tell people, and I've worked with Kelly on a number of these type of panels, that my experience as a student at Rockefeller, actually, I felt very lucky to have gone to a school that they prepared me specifically for the career that I would end up in. I think Rockefeller equipped me with the perfect balance of quantitative and qualitative skills that you really need as a public finance analyst. So essentially, once I started my grad program there, I thought I was like fully convinced that I was going to just be a public policy analyst. And by a stroke of luck and some turn of events, I ended up just taking some courses and ended up majoring in public finance. Well, my concentration was public finance, and it just lit a fire and an interest in me. And it truly, like, all of the eggs were just like in the perfect basket at the time. And I know there's additional questions later, but the actual story, which involves Robin, of how I got actually into the industry, was truly perfectly laid out. And if it hadn't been for Rockefeller, it would not have happened.
Yeah, and I think for me, the program, it really had a lot of, they allowed concentrations, at least back when I was in the program. So, I picked the public finance concentration. It just gave a real deep dive into governmental accounting, budgeting, a whole range of detailed, policy courses. So I felt like when I started at S&P, I really had a leg up because it was just a lot of practical knowledge. We did, projects that really simulated what the rating agencies do in terms of gathering information and formulating an opinion of, their overall financial health. And I think the internship opportunities were fantastic. That's how I got into public finance, because I was entering a division of budget and happened to be in the capital planning unit that did all of the financing for, capital across New York State. And it turned me on to the municipal bond world, and the rest was history. So without that internship experience, I don't think I would have been on the path that I was on. And I think the other thing that I felt very valuable, you had a lot of practitioners that taught a lot of the evening courses, and they just had a really practical approach and could talk a lot about the professional. It wasn't all just theory and academic sort of literature. It was very hands-on, practical. So I felt that was differentiating.
Awesome. Amazing. Lee, did you have anything you wanted to add to that question?
I'm an alum, unfortunately, although it sounds like maybe I should come back and get a master's. But no, I'll maybe we'll jump in. I know we wanted to talk about how we got involved in public finance, and I think Robin and Kimberly, started that, explained that a bit. But I'm probably unlike the two of them, I'm probably one of the few people that fell into public finance right out of undergrad. It just going through an analyst training program and interviewing for that, the need happened to be in a muni group at Merrill Lynch at the time. So, that was, very fortunate. That was 23 years ago, and I'm still here. I was fortunate to work under people that, really let me learn on the job and kind of threw me into it. So learning sectors as I go, but, it's funny, and Kimberly and Robin, and maybe some of you who are focusing on the industry will laugh, but like as the new analyst, we were given Puerto Rico and bond insurers because those were AAA and they couldn't go wrong, right? So that was the beginning work for the bond insurer, for the analysts at the time. And then, slowly, began having an interest in healthcare and had the opportunity to start working on healthcare there. And then just kind of stayed within the industry. They told me when I started that, once somebody's in there, they never really want to leave. And I didn't believe that. When you come out of undergrad, you think maybe you'll go over to the equity side or something, but, kind of really got hooked, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Thank you. And yeah, our second question, what inspired you to pursue a career in public finance, and how did you get started in the field? I think you guys kind of explained that already. Anything you'd like to add to that question though?
I think I mentioned mine was, a gateway through Division of the Division of Budget, but I think the power of networking is also really significant, because when I was in that internship, I did spend, a lot of extra time, probably off the clock, just asking questions, and got to meet some of the underwriters that were coming in, because New York State was just launching their leasing program. And the connections I made there, someone wound up going to S&P, and I just, kept in touch with him. And when I graduated, he's like, hey, they're hiring. And so the power of network there was really big. And it, again, that intersection of, public policy and finance is what is so, to me, meaningful about the public finance industry, for sure.
Yeah, and I think for me, with actually taking the leap into the industry, I still didn't know until second semester senior year that's what I wanted to do. I was still on the public policy lane, and my internship, Robin mentioned the great internship programs that Rockefeller allowed you to have, but my internship was with the New York State Legislature, so I was still fully I'm going to be a policy person, and did everything in my power to run away from our math type classes that we had. But the public finance courses that I did take, I took under Professor Leifschutz, and he was amazing in making it digestible and relatable. And I was very fortunate that him and Robin were friends, and he actually invited Robin to speak to our class about the public finance industry, which I actually did not know existed. And I'm originally from New York City. I know I wanted to go home. And Robin took a lot of time, and I think I monopolized her entire after class chat. It was just cornered her and got all the information from her. And she really just let me know there's this whole industry, a burgeoning industry that you can utilize all of the skills that I'm learning, my qualitative skills, my quantitative skills, and have this great career. And she just basically laid out the pathways, rating agencies, I didn't know what they did, bond insurers didn't know what they did. So she gave me a great introduction, and then I just took it and ran with it from there. So that's how I basically got my foot in the door. I'm forever grateful.
Awesome. Incredible. Thank you. And then as far as how has the landscape of the industry changed over the years, and what impact has that had on your work?
I think I'll start. I mean, I think ever increasingly, the information flow and the pace of the industry has changed tremendously. It used to be that information would come in, there would be a little lag on financials and everything. Now, I mean, there's so many information, good information sources, and so many times you have to react to information that's coming out. And part of that is really, I think, changing the way we analyze. You know, there's two things in public finance when you're looking at paying a bond, right? It's willingness and ability. And I think we've always focused historically on the ability. And now, given, you know, prior defaults, willingness is much more of a part of the discussion. And so that really brings us back to the core of public finance, where you're bringing in, you know, not just whether they have the money and the financial analysis, but do they have, you know, what's the political climate? What is the policy climate there? And so it's made it a much more exciting, well-rounded, kind of fast-paced kind of analysis to me.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with Lee. When I started, it was very much described as like the sleepy part of fixed income. Like, you know, everything in municipal bonds are, you know, highly rated, nothing, you know, it's the unsexy part of the finance world. And it would tell people, like, you don't have an MBA, like, how are you, like, working quote unquote on Wall Street? And like, yeah, but it's municipal finance, right? And everyone's like happy, like you're doing something good. And then we have like Detroit's and Puerto Rico's, and we have all of these events that really pretty much change the course of our industry. And you know, to Lee's point, we were taught it's the ability and the willingness, and that brings into play everything that I had learned about, like the public policy aspect of it, like the governance aspect of it, the management aspect of it. So it really allowed me to shine as an analyst, because I had so much more of like the qualitative skills and not just being like a purely quantitative person. But I think that our industry now, like you've showed that the chops that you have to have as a municipal finance analyst, it has to be as top notch as any other fixed income sector. And I think in the past couple of years, the change in the policy tone has been very stark, and it has led to a lot of surprises in our industry, and things that we've could have relied on, behaviors that we've relied upon in the past are not playing out in the same way anymore.
Yeah, totally agree. I think, you know, from where I sit at a rating agency, the fiscal crisis was really a big pivotal moment in our industry, and I think a lot changed then. You know, it no longer was the sleepy industry, because 50% of the market used to be covered by bond insurance, and credit became so important and so fundamental when that all sort of unraveled during the fiscal crisis. So I think data availability got much better, technology got better, and so it is more interesting. Sometimes it's really annoying too. Like the political environment is very, you get a front row seat to a lot, and a lot of it's interesting, but also it can be difficult to predict, as Lee said. It's made it a lot more challenging on like willingness type issues, willingness to repay debt.
Awesome, thank you. As far as those issues, what are some of those bigger issues that the industry is facing, and how do you guys see women playing a role in addressing those challenges?
I think the financial services industry, I mean, compared to, at the point which I started, which was way before Lee and Kim, probably, I think it's become much more balanced. I can speak at public finance. Our public finance team has much more, balance in terms of, female leadership and, things that are important. We're able to recruit more, and as you have a more balanced workforce, hopefully that translates to better leadership representation. But I think we're not there uniformly as a financial services sector, for sure. But I'd say all our companies are doing a lot to, try to improve that. It's become a very hot button issue, I think, in corporate America.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can speak anecdotally, but I think if the research is actually done, like we do have one of the most diverse sectors overall, like in terms of representation from women in general, but senior women, to Robin's point. And then from me, sitting at the intersectionality, of being a Black woman, general diversity, you see more in municipal finance. And that was one thing that, spoke to me as like, I could actually make this a career path, a long career path for myself. So I think that that's definitely like just one thing that sets us apart. But in terms of the context of like how the industry overall is changing and things that are happening, I think that diversity of opinion makes us have collectively, better analytical skills, especially when you're talking about U.S. municipal finance, you're talking about regional differences, demographic differences. So being able to have different people in the rooms and opining on these things, it gives you a different perspective. We deal with clients, we deal with issuers. These are, mayors, governors, and they also want to see diversity sitting across the table from them as well. And I think that that's something that as an industry, we do really well, having that representation there. So that is one thing I am very proud of being a member of this industry.
I totally agree. I think, going back to the current makeup of the industry, I will say it's probably aging a bit, right? It skews more senior at this point, I think, because at the time when there was more, the highest levels of recruiting, maybe those kind of very senior people in departments are about to retire. So we could see quite a serious, and we're starting to see that a wave of retirements. I tell the analysts I work with, it's a tremendous opportunity to move up. It's a tremendous opportunity for women to move into maybe parts of the sector that are still stayed, maybe more skewed towards men, like trading desks and underwriting and that sort of thing. So I think it's opened up more doors than ever for advancement and just to get in the industry.
Awesome, thank you. Well, speaking of diversity and inclusion, how can women working in public finance help increase diversity inclusion within the industry?
I think by just showing up. I mean, that was the most helpful thing to me, just to be able to see senior women. When I first, Robin's gonna like kill me, but every time I just seeing her, and I don't remember what her title was at the time when she came and like spoke to our class, but it was like, oh my gosh, like she's like the owner of S&P. I don't know what I was thinking, but it was like, oh my gosh, I have this senior woman here running this entire department that, I hadn't seen that before. So I think just the representation, in and of itself is extremely important. And that's what I, just try to do just by existing in this industry.
I say my work, involves a lot of the deal teams, right? And deal teams, when you're underwriting a bond transaction, is everything from, your bond insurer, your banker, your FA, your lawyer. So when people are assembling deal teams, I think that's a way we can make sure that there's representation there. So if I have a choice of who to, outside counsel, making sure that, that we're looking at all the candidates, and same for underwriting teams, same for everything. So I think the clients are doing that definitely, but as women, we can make sure that, there's representation in the room, bringing people in the room with us, putting them on our analytical teams, which obviously Robin does a tremendous job doing already.
Well, thank you both. And I think that, you want to make sure you have representation, but you also want to make sure that, that saying about, the feeling like you're belonging, like to me, that's the inclusion part. Like you don't want to be, just get the invite, you want to be asked to dance. I forget who the, person, but that always I always come back to that. And, I think it's like the little things, and we just, it starts sometimes just in small groups. I think we've tried to do that within our public finance department. We have our DEI, one of our senior leaders in the DEI organization on this call. They do a great job as a company, but you want that tone set from the top, but you also want it bottoms up, that how you show up for each other at work every day, how you, bring someone in, how you think you're very thoughtful when you're setting up a panel discussion. We will not hold, at least in our part of the ratings organization, we very seldom will have a panel that isn't representative of, what our department is or what our broader industry is. And it's been really refreshing to see just across, like, I get a lot of, these requests that come through, and I'll give a name. Oh no, we want a woman. They want to be thoughtful about it too. And I'll tell you, like, that's very new. Like, that didn't happen 5-10 years ago. So I think all of us being mindful of it day to day, we're all in different organizations, but I think it makes a difference how we show up at events and how we think about events, and internally, like your, internal company events as well.
Awesome. Thank you. What are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about public finance?
That is boring.
Yeah, I think Kim said it all. Everyone thinks it's the sleepy fixed income, area.
There's so many chances to do really true corporate style analysis within our business. To be a well-rounded analyst, you look at healthcare, you look at transportation, you're looking at airports. These are all no different than our colleagues on the corporate side, right? And so it's, like you said, it's not boring. There's ways to kind of specialize in sectors, whether you want to be more quantitative, put something, if you have prior experience in an industry, you can cover that sector, so that it's converging with what I see corporate bond analysis is.
So perfect. And this question has like two parts to it, but how do you stay up to date with the latest trends and developments in the industry? And then the second part to that is, what are those resources that you rely on to do so?
I don't know how you guys feel, but it feels like a full-time job. Like, the information quantity has exploded in the last 10-15 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, before it was, you would sign up for like Factiva alerts or something like for your portfolio. And now it's like, you had to follow everyone on Twitter. Like, you get your news from very random sources of, like, something could be event driven. I'm not sure if any of the students are keeping up, or why would you be, but like, with the Reedy Creek stuff that's going on in Florida, right? And you're just like, I'm like watching stuff on TikTok about this, and it's just coming from so many different channels now. But just in terms of keeping like sharp on our skills and stuff like that, I do think that our industry does a really good job of hosting training programs, or like we have a lot of like professional development events, different groups. In addition to Northeast Women in Public Finance, there's a number of municipal analyst groups that regularly hold like credit-based, like really topical like talks and panels and discussions, just to make sure everyone has a pulse of what's going on right now. But in terms of the information flow, you're just going to get it whichever way it happens that day. Like, you're on the lookout for like breaking news alerts.
Yeah, it's like drinking from a fire hose. It feels like, I think the other change we've seen, I don't know about Lee and Kim, how you feel, but, we've been hiring a lot of data science and more quant folks, because we're trying to leverage, AI bots, like, just so that we can, try to synthesize a little bit more all of the disparate things that are out there. So that's one of the strategies.
That's really interesting. I'd say you're probably a leader there by going there. We're just trying to think about using data. I mean, here's something interesting. Like, our data is not easily scrapable, right? Or hasn't been in the past, right? So that alone sets public finance apart. You need to get spread numbers yourself, or really trust your data sources. So I think as we get closer to that, it'll make us
I think that's
more efficient.
Yeah, I think that's actually going to be a really big growth area in our industry in the next couple of years is like the data part of it. Because of municipal finance, our data is generally historical looking, like there's not really a lot of forecasting that's done in terms like a comprehensive manner. So there is a lot of work that can be done in the data space, and I think that that's going to be like huge for us.
Amazing,
Agreed.
thank you. And then as far as advice, what type of advice would you give students considering a career in public finance?
Do it. It's just like, no, I think that it is a truly overlooked, super interesting when you get into the nitty-gritty. It's overlooked, but it's very, very interesting, and it is it's a good place to hone critical thinking skills, your genuine analytical skills. And for those folks that were like me, that were, like just deterred from being like super quant heavy, it was a truly like a place where I was able to grow and to add value with the qualitative skills that I did have. And you realize like everything is not just numbers, like this really important role that we have in this sector. You can use like your economics training, like your governance training, your management training, like all of the policy analysis, all of that work that your foundational work that you're doing right now to really make a big impact in our industry. And as we can see with all of the changes that have happened over like the political landscape and things, that is truly, it's going to be extremely important going forward. Municipal finance is not going anywhere. There's no entity that can afford to replace a bridge for $8 billion. They can't just write a check to do that. You're going to need new schools. You're going to need courthouses. You're going to need all of these municipal improvements. And it is a way, I think for me, once I actually decided on the industry, I was like super happy to realize like I'm doing work in a public space because everything's being done for the good of the public good within the private sector, if that makes sense. So that, I was able, my grandmother would see like, Moody's downgraded Macy's. I'm like, that's not my department. Like I'm working with like the city of New York and stuff. Like I felt like good about being a bond analyst for municipal entities. Like, no, I'm helping the place that we live, your tax dollars at work. So I just think it's a truly, truly interesting. I don't want to categorize it as a niche because I don't think it's a niche, but I just think it's overlooked, but it's super interesting.
I'd say, be aware of and like consider and don't underestimate just like the satisfaction you get that you are helping finance things that your community is using. Maybe finance gets a bad rap, but like Kim said, like because it's, people think it's, helping corporate America. It's not, it's, you can drive by the school you helped build. You can go to the hospital you helped finance. So, our industry tends to attract people that care about that stuff, and so that's, consider that when you're thinking about kind of your satisfaction with your job, when you look at yourself 20 years from now, and how you feel like you may, how you will have contributed.
That's so truly, I feel like our industry, you come and you tend to stay. And I think that collaborative, collegial environment exists like across firms and, because we're all singularly, sort of in that space. But I think also if you have a strong interest in going the government route to start with, I think the great thing about, the public finance muni bond industry is that they welcome you with open arms, even if you choose a government path for a couple of years. I felt like I was letting all my professors down when I chose to go to S&P, that I'm not doing, a public policy path. I'm not, going into government. but I realize we hire a lot of, New York City OMB has been, big recruitment area for a lot of parts of our industry, and other folks have made that switch. So I guess I would also just add all the things that Kim and Lee said, but it's flexible. You can move, around in different areas and, kind of see it all.
Awesome. And last question for our panelists. How can our students become involved in Northeast Women in Public Finance? Sorry. And what are those benefits of that membership? What do you gain from that?
Well, we actually have student memberships. It's a discounted membership. I think it's like $10. And if it's not, I will honor the $10 price like to become a member. But we have this was Kelly alluded to this earlier. This is very important for me as an alum from Rockefeller. Like, our industry is primarily New York City based. So, Columbia is right there. SEPA's always there. Wagner's always right there. And I'm always like, Rockefeller. I think that the pandemic gave us a really great opportunity, because a lot of our organizations, not just Northeast Women in Public Finance, we have embraced this hybrid of virtual and in-person events and outreach. And as we continue to do this, this is an opportunity for us to cast a wider net, to increase our pipeline. I think Lisa is, if she's still there, can speak to, we're going to start like an internship bank. So there are opportunities for students to submit their resumes, or look on there and see what internship opportunities are available. Like for me, I wasn't aware of any internship opportunities when I started in the industry. Again, it was stroke of luck. Like, I just had direct access to Robin to be able to get my foot in the door. So I would just say, like, sign up and get involved. We have email blasts. If it's not a hybrid or a virtual event, we have like the job banks, and then we also send out, to Robin's earlier point, like, our industry is very collegial. Like, we send out information from other organizations. So if it's not something that you could directly benefit from Northeast Women in Public Finance, it could be something from Magni, something from another organization that may be something that the students can leverage. So.
Awesome. And then I think we're going to turn it back over to Kelly for questions and answers now.
Okay, we just had a question come through the chat that said, how do you sign up? So I believe that's in reference to what Kim was just talking about. So Kim, I don't know if you want to take that.
Yeah, no, I could, you could just sign up directly on our website, which is, oh gosh, I'm sorry, it's NEWPF.org, but I'll make sure to send it to Kelly so she can send it to everyone on a call after. And
Great,
you can
thank
just
you.
email me if it's not $10. I'll make something happen.
We'll make sure. We'll hold you to it. Thanks. Okay, and so for any other students, please feel free to use the raise your hand feature if you have any questions. We won't spotlight you, but we will ask you to go ahead and unmute and ask your question. Or if you would prefer, go ahead and drop it in the chat and I will be happy to read it aloud.
Oh, one other thing I did want to mention, we also have a mentoring program, and I'm sorry, I'm recovering at a cold, so I'm like on a 10-second delay. So that I would say was the biggest benefit that our organization has. And students sign up to be mentees right now, professionals within our industry. And I think that mentee mentor program that we have, one, it's our most popular program, and it has been the most valuable in being a pipeline, like a practical pipeline into our industry. So that's definitely something to check out once you become a member. And we're an inclusive organization. Men can join as well. It's not just women, like women's our org name, but we have men that are members of our organization.
And they come to your events too.
Yeah,
they come to our events. We're open to all.
And we have a pretty active LinkedIn presence as well. It's a real focus of us this year. So, it's a great way to follow us. It's also a great way to kind of reach out to any one of us too, to kind of friend us there and reach out with any questions directly one-on-one, or, request to meet up. Like Robin said, we're always willing to help out and chat.
That's wonderful. If you don't mind sending the link to the LinkedIn page as well, and either Lee or Kim, whoever wants to send it, and we'll make sure to get it out to everybody who is on this call and anyone who watches it after the fact. Great. So I don't see any other questions coming in here, but since you just mentioned mentors, I was wondering from the three of you, do you still have mentors? You're all pretty well established in your organizations. Do you continue to seek out mentorship, and do you mentor others?
Yes to all of the above. I need a mentor every day of my life. I still consider my initial set of mentors when I started in this industry to continue to be my mentors. Like it's obviously the relationship has matured into like much more of a friendship, but I still feel like I can go to them for objective career advice. I consider Robin to be one of those folks. I think it's my duty to reach back to those that are coming up after me. Again, not only as a woman in this industry, but as a Black woman in this industry. So I make it a point to be a mentor through our program and just one-off as well. So mentoring is a huge part of like my professional identity. And I also just want to make note that mentor for me, mentor-mentee relationship hasn't always been like a strict hierarchy. My peers as well, like peer mentorship has been truly important to my development in this industry.
I'd agree. You're never too senior to have a mentor. The woman that hired me into this industry and was really a trailblazer, in actually work-life balance and work from home, and was doing it, 20 years before anybody else was, is still a very close friend. And then, a woman that introduced me to the Northeast Women in Public Finance, Mary, who you all know and love in the industry. So there's no shortage of people that are willing to be your mentor here, formally or informally.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other thing I would add is I've always been a little bit more about the informal mentoring, like not this big, formalized thing that sometimes it's just when it's spontaneous, it's equally as effective, and it's a little easier to fit in, and you don't have to like have a rigid schedule. So that's probably the only thing I would add. Totally agree with Kim and Lee.
Great, thank you so much. And I do have another question that came in, and I think this is a fantastic question. Do you need to study public administration to get into this field? So we have the student who asked this is currently in the International Affairs program. So they're probably wondering what kind of transferable skills can go into finance from the international field.
You don't need public administration background at all. We hire from all different disciplines. There's also a huge industry, the international public finance and our sovereign ratings analysis is a fascinating space. Really interesting credit work, and we rate 130 countries across the globe. So there's a whole nother area over there that probably is little known, just the way public finance is. But I don't know about the rest of you, but like we have people from all different disciplines that join our organization, and we love that diversity.
Kind of like when someone doesn't have the background in a way, because we train them in kind of our way of thinking. And, when we're looking for someone to hire, right out of college or grad school, we're just looking for like an analytical mind. It's hard to describe it, but when you see it, right? And I would say that's something you're learning and honing in your program. And we also really like good writers, and I'm sure you both have that too. I mean, that's a skill. Again, it's not easy to find. So that can come from any major. Some English majors have been some of our most successful employees.
Yeah, I would concur with both Kelly and with Lee and Robin. And I was thinking immediately when it said international affairs, I'm like, oh, sovereigns and sub-sovereigns, right? Like there's so many flavors of what we do. But to Lee's point, good communication skills and a great analytical mind will get you in the door faster than your concentration area, because also to the point, like most of the firms are going to train you. Right, like that's where you get like the fundamental training. When I started, I didn't go directly to a rating agency. I went to a bond insurer, and they didn't really have training in at that point. But I was able, to show them that I had like the analytical oomph, and I was a scrappy learner, and that was the start of that story. But going in and getting hired at a rating agency, when I tell like there is no better training ground to become an analyst, like you're going to learn everything that you need to do. And in our world, again, it's so small, we cycle through, and it's like people that started out at rating agencies, they go to the bond insurers that go to the banks, everyone, it's a great collaborative ecosystem.
So I guess
Agreed.
spinning off, oh, sorry, go ahead, Robin.
No, the only thing I would add about the writing, because Lee, I think it's a great point that you brought up. It's one of the like super important skills. And if you don't have it and you can't learn it, it's going to be very hard for you to, like, I think in certain segments, make it. And I think it's harder for this generation with the texting and the Slack, that business writing, there's no room for that. And like, that was something I can speak, because I had 3 kids go through college, like, you better like pick up that formal writing along the way, or you're going to have a very hard time.
Very verbose in this industry. The writing, the long reports are not going away anytime soon, in unis at least.
So I want to ask a follow-up question before any other students do. If you are applying for this, either as an intern or for a full-time position, how would you, in the interview and in your application materials, prove that you have these skills that you're saying would be beneficial? So obviously the writing, you can prove that in a cover letter, but are you going to also ask for writing samples? Or is the cover letter what you're really scrutinizing as far as their writing skills? And then in addition, if somebody is an English major, should they take some sort of quant class in addition to prove that they can at least participate and have some sort of quantitative mindset?
Megan, do you want to answer that?
I was going to say, I think I might be a little bit better of a fit for that. Essentially, yes, cover letters are great. However, at many times we ask for writing samples, whether that's a case study or that's just, send us your best example of your skills, whatever really comes across there. So I think being prepared to not only present that, not only in your cover letter, but in your resume is very important. And really pulling from, I tell all of my candidates, your resume should reflect job descriptions. Your resume should reflect what you're going to be doing in the role, not just what you've done. And so ensuring that you're putting in that writing example, ensure your resume is written well, is displayed correctly. I think that would be, kind of the most important goal there for them. Is cover letters are fantastic, but your resume is really the thing that we're really focusing on when we get that.
I'd say the same. We also do ask for writing samples, but I think, definitely not necessary at all. But if you were going to take a more business oriented class, like a finance class, I would recommend accounting. I mean, because that's a lot of what we do. And, that's something maybe we could see, okay, well, maybe they obviously haven't worked in accounting, where they took it in one class. And it also is helpful to you because you'll see if you like it, you'll see if you want that to be part of your job. So if you had a choice, you want to dip your toe in the water, I would recommend an accounting class.
Great, thank you. And immediately following up to that, perfect segue, we had a student ask, do you have internship opportunities for international students? I know there's a couple different organizations represented here, so I don't know if you know the ins and outs of the qualifying factors for your interns. But if you do have any inside knowledge, if you could share that.
I would say for the Northeast Women in Public Finance, we typically don't the NYC based internship opportunities, but S&P, I speak to S&P, and Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, for Assured and Moody's and S&P, we have a global presence. So there are internships, they're available in one of our, global, in our international offices. Assured, I know like also has international offices as well. I'm not sure how that internship stuff works out, but like most of the larger players, most of the larger employers have a global presence. And from my experience, we tend to if there's an internship program in New York City, there's going to be an internship program in London, there's going to be an internship program in Paris. So it's about that's, in that scenario, you have to do a little bit more research on your own to find those. But a specific like municipal finance internship, you wouldn't really see internationally.
Agreed. Our internship, at least for the rating side, has largely been centered on sort of rising seniors at the undergrad level. So, it's more focused on like the U.S. institution where you are, but I don't think they're prohibited, Megan, from hiring an international student per se.
Yeah, no, it would be really dependent on, of course, what visas and things like that we would need to work out. But yeah, there's always opportunities, definitely, at least at S&P Global. There's definitely opportunities. I won't speak for the other companies, but yeah, we have an entire early campus recruiting team that does it quite often.